everyone, I'm Loretta Corbisiero. I'm the administrator for the Arts and Education and Exploratory, I'll do it though, thank you. Yeah, the Exploratory Enrichment Program for Eastern Suffolk BOCES. So I will go over today with you some of the New York State, I'll go over the art standards, the culturally responsive and sustaining education, and social emotional learning, and show you where to find all of this information so you can fill this grant application or any other project that you do if you're interested in working in schools to align with the standards. So, am I not in view? I'm actually going to sit down because one, I want to be able to read my notes. Two, I really want you to watch what I have on the screen. So I will be sitting, we'll have plenty of time for question and answer, and I'll answer whatever questions you have. And we'll also work together a little bit in, I'll give you a little bit of detective work with the standards. So a little bit about me, my bio, which is always the uncomfortable slide, but this is it. I'm the administrator for the Arts and Ed program at BOCES. I'm also an adjunct professor at Farmingdale College. I teach art history. I was previously through BOCES the project director for a U.S. Department of Education grant. I sit on several different boards all over the state for arts education. I taught the standards throughout New York State and some other previous backgrounds. So my thing that I love is tying everything together between education, community, and artists. That's what I thrive in and love to do. So, but for the purposes of today, we're looking at the statewide community re-grant application, formerly known as the DEC grant, right? So thank you for those corrections. It's a good thing that happened. When you look at this application, this is what you're going to see. I don't know if any of you have been there to visit it yet. You will see this. This is the application that will come from the Huntington Arts Council, correct? Correct, yeah. And what I'd like to do is, I wish I had my little pointer, I don't have it, I'm sorry. So what we're going to look at pretty specifically is your art discipline, if you address any SEL or CRS framework in your program or your proposal, and the art standards and what the art standards mean to your program. So we're going to explore and align to the standards right now. So the highlights of standards versus curriculum. What is standards versus curriculum? In education terms, decisions about standards are made at the state level, defining for teachers, school leaders, and parents what students are expected to know by the end of the school year. Curriculum decisions, including which materials and programs to use, are made by the local districts. So instructional decisions regarding student progress throughout the year are made in the classroom. So when we look at the highlights of the art standards, these are how the art standards changed. They updated them in 2017. So what New York State did was they modeled it after the National Core Art Standards. They modeled the New York State Art Standards, but they made some adaptations for students, in particular in New York. So what they did was they added the addition of the media arts, which was also on the national standard. They have common artistic practices that we'll look over, 11 common anchor standards. There's also grade level bands for sequential instruction. Now, prior to 2017, the art standards were basically K through 2, you'll learn this, 3 through 5, you'll do this. Now it's each grade level, and I'll show you that in more detail as we move along. So you will see the sequential instruction for students at every grade level in each discipline for each standard. There's also discipline-specific enduring understandings. What do we want our students to know? What do we want them to understand about this program? What do we want them to understand in 5th grade visual arts creative process? And how do we get there? Well, we ask essential questions. So those enduring understandings and essential questions, I will ask you if you do anything, please pay close attention to those, because that will help you in the language of state standards. Now, all of you as artists, I'm sure you're doing this already, but it may be a little bit of modification to your program or proposal or what you write up that now ties you directly to the standard using the same language as New York State, which will strengthen the programs that you are looking to do and the projects you're looking to do. They've also added artistic literacy, and we'll go over that. Traditional and contemporary approaches. Previously, the art standards only dealt with your traditional approaches. Now we have contemporary approaches as well. And they added two of these artistic processes, responding and connecting. And again, we will go over each one of these in detail. So artistic literacy. Establishing a definition of artistic literacy that clarifies how students can be involved in the arts beyond the high school level, and how that arts involvement contributes to college, career, and lifelong learning is the foundation of artistic literacy. While individuals can learn about dance, media, music, theater, and visual arts through reading print text, artistic literacy requires that they engage in this creation process directly through the use of materials such as charcoal or paint or clay, musical instruments or sport, and in specific spaces such as concert halls, museums, dance rehearsal spaces, stages, and computer labs. So, oh, did that switch over? It did, okay. So the philosophical foundations and lifelong goals establish the basis for these new standards and illuminate artistic literacy by expressing the overarching common values and expectation for learning and arts education across the 5 disciplines. The foundational work is what we value in arts education, and the National Core Art Standards Framework applies to the New York State Art Standards as well. The artistically literate student is truly evident and detailed, as you will see in Art Standards 7 through 11. So aligning your programs, we want them to balance and line up. So these new art standards were designed to help arts educators provide the high-quality curriculum instruction and assessment that students need to succeed in today's schools and tomorrow's careers. So let's take a look at what changed from prior to 2017, so it would be 1996. So right now, then, and now, the art standards. What is shared? Well, we share knowledge and skills, philosophical foundations, lifelong goals, glossary, parallel format among the arts disciplines, and discipline-specific performance indicators. So the new standards were designed to help arts educators provide this high-quality curriculum instruction and assessment that students need to succeed today and tomorrow. So here we previously had 4 disciplines. Again, this is prior to 2017. And now we have 5 because we added the media arts. We have 4 common artistic processes across all 5 disciplines. We have 11 common anchor standards rather than the 4 common overarching standards across the disciplines. We have discipline-specific, again, those enduring understandings and essential questions, rather than 4 sets of discipline content standards. It used to be, as I said, the clustered grade bands. Now we have pre-K through 8th grade level, and high school is at three different levels. Was paper-based, now we're web-based, printable e-docs, paper accessibility. And we have those traditional and contemporary approaches for artistic literacy in a digital age. So the processes are non-linear. It doesn't mean you have to move from one through the next. They're interconnected. Access can be at any point and does not need to commence with creating. The emphasis can vary from lesson to lesson and in between disciplines. Each of the arts disciplines incorporates the processes in some manners, and connecting is your big overarching container, if you will. So we could have creating, performing, presenting, producing, which that goes towards each discipline. I'll explain that to you in a bit. Responding, and all of it is connecting. We're gathered together by these connecting. You can do creating and connecting. You can do your student art experience and just creating. You can have responding. And again, we'll take a look at these. So the processes are articulated in 11 anchor standards that are also common across all formats. So you can all art forms. So you will have these same artistic processes and anchor standards regardless of the discipline that you're in. So the anchor standards are these overarching standards of statements of what students should know and do in all of their the arts as a result of their pre-K through 12 education. So if you see here, whether this is dance, theater, music, visual, or media arts, each one of those anchor standards will be the same. Generate and conceptualize artistic ideas and work. Regardless of what discipline it's in, creating will have that anchor standard. So when we look at the anchor standards, they're, again, not necessarily sequential. They're numbered for a coding purpose. So the creating, you would have anchor standard 1, 2, and 3. Anchor standard 1, as I said, generalize and conceptualize artistic ideas and work. Anchor standard 2, organize and develop these artistic ideas and work. And anchor standard 3 is to refine and complete artistic work. Oh, wrong way. Performing, presenting, and producing. Now, when we refer to performing, we think dance, music, and theater, realizing the artistic ideas and work through an interpretation and presentation. When we refer to presenting, we refer to the visual arts, interpreting and sharing the artistic work. And when we refer to producing, it's media arts, realizing and presenting the artistic ideas and work. Media arts is when they refer to something as a timed segment, so it would be something visual, like a video or creating music. They consider it that timed element. It's not necessarily teaching studio art by using Photoshop. It would have to have that timed component, and that's what they consider media. So here are your anchor standards, 4, 5, and 6. Can you guys hear me okay in the back? Because I know I'm facing this way, so I can see what's on the slide. All right. Select, analyze, and interpret the artistic work for presentation. Develop and refine the artistic techniques and work for presentation. Convey meaning through the presentation of artistic work. Responding, this is one of the newer concepts, and again, we've been with these standards since 2017, so we are all familiar with it at this point, is understanding and evaluating how the arts convey meaning. Anchor standard 7, perceive and analyze artistic work. 8, interpret meaning in artistic work. 9, apply criteria to evaluate artistic work. And connecting. This is a new fun one, relating artistic ideas and work with personal meaning and external context. So this is connecting the arts to history, community, and the world outside of school. Relate and synthesize knowledge and personal experiences to inspire and inform artistic work. Investigate ways that artistic work is influenced by societal, cultural, historical context, and in turn, how artistic ideas shape cultures past, present, and future. So just as a little talk back here, let's take this piece. This photo was taken by a colleague of mine, and it was taken back in 2017, so it was timely as I was doing all these presentations, but I still love it. So if you were going to connect, is everybody familiar with Fearless Girl? Okay. If you are going to connect Fearless Girl using the art standards, and this is what anchor standard, I'm using anchor standard 11, investigate ways that artistic work is influenced by societal, cultural, and historical context, and in turn, how artistic ideas shape cultures past, present, and future. So if we could all, like, in the front, if you could just turn a little bit so we can kind of see each other. If anybody wants to talk out, how would you connect this? How would you connect this art piece to anchor standard 11? How is it connecting? It could be through the type of art that it is.
The role of a young woman in society who's taking on the bull horns, so to speak. She's sort of standing up in a very powerful sort of way, the camera angle, the sort of way we framed her. She's sort of larger and closer to us than the bottom background. And even I guess it's like a sepia tone of black and white, like that gives it a nice harmonious kind of look where you're just. And the vignette is nice because you're really focused on what's happening between the two central pieces. So I guess in terms of the standards, it's just the way that it's going to elicit the response from the student in terms of their own personal beliefs or what's going on in society.
So you've connected this piece to how the composition leads you to focus, but you've connected it to how this young girl is taking on this goal. You've connected it to history and what is going on in the location and the art medium. That's connected. When you see this piece, Fearless Girl, she's what, like 3.5, 4 feet tall, right? She's not much of anything. She's a sculpture, okay, bronze. And it's a beautiful sculpture. She's got her hands on her hip, fearless, like I am going to take on any challenges. During this period of time, we had what was called the Me Too movement. Okay, so this girl then ended up representing that as well. She also was placed down on Wall Street. Now, Wall Street is historically where women look to break that glass ceiling, if you will. So she was placed in front of our symbol of Wall Street. Now, the artist who created the charging bull in no way created this to be like a male-dominated Wall Street. It was created because a bull market's a good market. And now, but it totally took these two pieces, this one piece, totally changed the meaning of the other piece. And you're right, the way that vignette is and the color of, we're drawn into her standing there fearlessly against this symbol of a patriarchal Wall Street. And that is connecting a sculpture to so many different things going on in society, whether it's Wall Street, whether it's Me Too, whether it's, whatever it may be, a young girl's ambitions. But it's also the way the sculpture was done, because look at, the way her ponytail and her skirt is flying in the breeze, she's challenging. So that is just taking one piece and connecting it. And if this activates your work and how you think, wait a minute, well, my work connects to this outside of the classroom, and I'm doing this outside of the classroom, whether it's a culture, whether it's a different period in society, whether it's history, whether it's some sort of movement, and again, past, present, or future. So that is connecting, basically in a nutshell. So we're going to take a look, not at this moment, but in a few minutes, at the resources that we have through the New York State Education Department. The acronym is NYSED. So NYSED provides a variety of resources, such as the conceptual framework. They provide a lot of resources, webinars, all kind of PowerPoint presentations. There's a lot. You could be lost in there for days. So hopefully I'll streamline it a little bit for you. The enduring understandings, the essential questions, discipline-specific glossaries, inclusion strategies, an implementation guide to support administrators, parents, teachers. Guidance counselors are available to help unpack these standards. And again, they're found at the NYSED website and also the National Core Art Standards website.
So, just 1 second,
sure.
That link will be on the resources page.
Yeah, all the links that we look at today, I'll go to some of them. Hopefully we're still working, or I could go to the website and come back to the presentation. Little tech issues here on my part, but we'll try. So the enduring understandings and essential questions have been embedded into the standards as a support resource. So many of you may be familiar with these as a way to map out and organize curriculum. For those of you who aren't, the intent is to help keep instruction and learning focused on those big ideas of arts learning. So enduring understandings complement the lifelong goals for student art learners, and the essential questions are those prompts that we ask the students to wrestle with when they're experiencing making art. So the EUs and EQs are written across grade levels and are adapted by the instructor to their specific grade level. It's advisable to view the standards at a lower and higher grade level in order to see the progression of the proficiency. So they're kind of like intertwined. When I want that big idea, what do I do to get to that big idea? I have that big idea, but I want to get to that enduring understanding. And I'm going to have to ask those questions through my work and have students ask those questions to get there. So to take a look at some of these enduring understandings, this is by no means a comprehensive look. This is just 2 samples, and there are a lot of samples, as we'll see. Do we have any dance teaching artists here?
I'm a graduated for dance teaching.
Okay, so if we want our students to understand that choreographers are inspired by a variety of sources to convey concepts and ideas through movement and artistic expression, if we want that to be the big idea, well, what's a prompt? Where do choreographers get ideas for dances? Think of how much you can get out of a student just by asking that one question. Instead of saying choreographers do this, this, and this, when we put it into the students, where do they get their ideas? Now, as a teaching artist, you're going to show, maybe, or you'll have the students work on how to develop these ideas, and you will get to that understanding. Personal experiences, knowledge, and contexts are integrated and synthesized, spelling error there, to interpret and create dance. So our question is, how do empathy for others, understanding of ourselves, events around us, and other knowledge deepen our dance experience? Again, you can see where that prompt will get you through that big idea and get your students to understand. Media arts. Do we have a media arts teaching artists? So media arts, we would ask, let's say, essential question. Again, you'll see the familiarity between the different artistic disciplines, but it's just a little different. Just a slight tweak to make it more towards that discipline. How do media artists generate ideas? How can ideas for media arts productions be formed and developed to be effective and original? When we start asking ourselves that and our students that, we will ultimately understand that media arts ideas and works are shaped by the imagination, creative processes, artistic traditions, and experiences. Okay, Napoleon, I know this is you, general music. So, again, how do musicians generate creative ideas? When we ask that one question, or when we talk to our students about where do these ideas come from, by doing that, ultimately the students will understand that creative ideas, concepts, and feelings that influence a musician's work emerge from a variety of sources. But you're doing this. We know you're doing this, most likely as a teaching artist in music or any of the disciplines I'm showing you. But are you pointing out these connections to the standards? So it might be just a different way that you merge a grant application or your project proposal, or when you're talking to a teacher in the classroom, or when you're talking to an administrator, that I connect to the standards because I'm doing this. And that's really, we're hoping that we're helping you to make these connections. Theater, do we have theater teaching artists here? Okay. So what happens when theater artists foster understanding between self and others through critical awareness, social responsibility, and the exploration of empathy? Wow, that's a lot of questions, right? So we can get a lot out of that. Theater artists allow awareness of relationships between self and others to influence and inform their work. And I'm sure that by looking at that question, you can see how we can get to that understanding, right? Visual arts, I'm guessing most of us here are visual arts, right? Okay. So visual arts, again, the questions are similar in nature, but different as it pertains to each artistic discipline. How does engaging in creating art enrich people's lives? How does making art attune people to their surroundings? How does art making contribute to awareness and understanding of one's lives and the lives of others in the community? When you start to really investigate that question and dig deep into that question, you will understand that through art making, people make meaning by investigating and developing awareness of perceptions, knowledge, and experiences. So, again, if we could just turn and talk for a minute. When you think of a project, just one project that you do, one lesson that you do, something of that, which art standards do you think your program addresses? And does your program ask an essential question? Are you already embedding that? And do you provide opportunity for one of those enduring understandings? So if we could just talk about maybe something where you're thinking, oh, I could activate this in what I do. And if anybody wants to share out, that would be great. We can even respond with the, I think I do this. I wonder if I added something. And I wish I knew this. You could respond in that way too. Napoleon,
Our program is historical musical at the same time. We were able to connect with the history, what happened then compared to now, I'm sure the connection between the past and so forth. And then lead the students enough influence so they can improvise and add on to what they basically learn. I think that for me is the most successful part, is getting them to realize within and them. I'm not trying to make you a musician. I'm just basically trying to get you to be creative, but it's not necessarily being a musician or play. I can perfectly. So generally we do simple rhythms. How people create. So we use 5 notes and then not by accident, but I found this the teachers use it. Like a rotation, pop, 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 it's all there. So we use that. So we want to integrate with some things because as a TA, I wasn't a teacher. So I had to learn some of the teaching techniques that I would integrate with the program so that me and the teacher would be on the same page and getting involved.
right, so what you're doing, and again, to you are showing the students how these 5 notes have much more of a meaning than 5 notes because it's connecting to these other cultures, it's connecting to a history, it's also connecting to what they're doing in the classroom learning. But you're getting there by asking those questions and explaining and having the students contribute to that through their playing, through talking. And so now hopefully if you see some of this might just add a little bit more in there because you are doing it. And I know most of you are doing this. It's just a matter of knowing that this is out there on New York State's website and this is part of their standards. And you're in the world of being a teaching artist. So now when you cross that bridge, you've connected it in a way that just adds more value to your lesson.
You know, honestly, that I'm glad that I crossed over to others. Because we do music. Now we're music movement.
Oh, right.
And then we're getting need of the children to explore things of that nature. Now you can do things that you couldn't do because now you can mind. It's great. To incorporate that in the lesson plan is great. But then the students are actually making something that they learned in class, you know, that they can look at physically in the read. So all of that, I think, goes to the GA, and, you know, more way they can go.
Thank you. Anybody else? Did you
I'll
want to?
share just
Sure.
something that I recently did in a small summer program that I've been hosting. We read the book titled It Was a Year of Library. And as part of the whole lesson, we talked about identity and how her experiences, the cultural experiences shared on that book, kind of relate also to our own. So they created their own project, you know, with the flags, a specific meal that they prefer. Aside that, we actually cooked baleadas, which is a traditional dish from Honduras, and it was very enriching. You know, slightly different from the things I would do in the classroom, unless we have access to, you know,
Right.
things. But they really got a lot out of it.
They
I
do.
incorporated the music piece also, in which I taught them to dance one pinta, which is also a traditional dance from Honduras.
Great. Very good. Okay, so next, coding. Put it all together. Don't be scared. We're gonna break this down. Okay, so the anchor standards include two levels of standards, the anchor standards and performance standards, which New York State calls performance indicators. Anchor standards are the overarching standard statements of what a student should know and do in all of the arts as a result of their pre-K through 12 education. A performance indicator is the statement of what students should know and be able to do in a particular art discipline by the end of a specific grade or level. And the performance indicators translate the anchor standards into specific, measurable learning goals, and the standards are supported by a variety of discipline-specific instructional resources described later. So we have an artistic process, as we looked over, and you'll get handouts of all this too, along with resources to the website. So I know it seems like a lot right now, but once we break this down into little chunks, you'll be able to navigate that website no problem. So we have our 11 core standards that you've seen a few times already, our discipline-specific performance indicators, our discipline-based instructional resources, and those EUs and EQs, process components, implementation guide, blah, 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 all this. So here's what a standard looks like on NICE's website. It's a lot of fun. They provide learning progressions from PK through 12. The at-a-glance versions of each discipline are available on the arts page, and the standards at a glance provides the full scope and sequence of the standards by artistic discipline. Bolded words, when you see the bolded words, which I don't know if you can see them here. If you see, maybe in the back, if you see collaboratively and innovative, those words, I think they're linked on the website, but they are linked to the glossary. So there's a glossary of all of those words that are bold. And so the high school area of the standards is not broken into grade level, it's broken into 3 levels of standards, and the pre-K through 12, pre-K through 8 are grade level. So the high school level, the first level is proficient, and it reflects what can be expected of a student beyond that pre-K through 8. The second level is accomplished, so it reflects multiple years of courses or study beyond those grade standards. The final level is advanced, and this reflects independent study and facility. This is more like your AP students or your students that are going advanced to College Board. Did that change? Here we go. Okay, so this is our high school levels. As you can see, HS1, HS2, HS3. And look at how it progresses. So your performance indicator is use multiple approaches to begin creative endeavors. That's your proficient level. Accomplished is when you formulate individually or collaboratively new creative problems based on students' existing artwork. Then when you get into advanced, HS3, you're now visualize and hypothesize to generate ideas and plans for creating art and design that could affect social change. So you see the difference in how we start off in your, let's say, studio art, and then you go into a more advanced art, and by the time you're doing AP art, you would be at that level 3. So they're really coming up with their own artwork. So here's what a standard looks like, the VA part and all the boxes around it. But when we look, this is the coding system. It's kind of like a shorthand that helps you keep track of where you are. So we're going to take a look at each component. All right, so each discipline is assigned an alphabetic abbreviation. So we have VA for dance, MA for media arts, MU for music, DA for dance, and TH for theater. So it's got an upper and a lowercase letter. So then, here they are, dance, music, theater, visual arts, and media arts. Then each artistic process, if you look at the process, as we said, we're going to be creating, performing, presenting, producing, responding, and connecting. That's that next series when you see the CR. So that's the alphabetic abbreviation using, again, an upper and lowercase letter. Creating, performing, presenting, producing, responding, and connecting. Then the anchor standards are the same across all disciplines. So is it anchor standard 1, anchor standard 2, 3, 4, as we went through the 11 anchor standards. Each arts discipline have discipline-specific interpretations, well, those enduring understandings. The performance indicator, so we have the enduring, most of the enduring understandings are 1s. There are a few that have 2, but that's rare. I think it's in music. Then we will get to the grade level, as we saw. So can you see as I'm following along with this? I just want to come up here and show you. So here's your artistic discipline. If it was media arts, you have an MA. If it was music, you would have an MU. If it was connecting, it would be CN or RE for responding. The next is your grade level, your enduring understanding. Your anchor standard, so it would have 11 or 8. Then your enduring understanding, your grade level, and your performance indicator. So that's how they're broken apart. And that's how you read the code. That's it. That's the secret art standards code. So where do we find all this? So let's see if this works. Since most of you are visual, I'm going to click that first. So when we go to the nice, whoops, oh, there it is. Look at that. And this is, as I said, this is how it looks. We didn't print these out because it's a lot to print, but Emily and Patty will provide you the links. And I mean, this is a lot. I know it's difficult to see this, but this will show you, here's pre-K. Then we go on to kindergarten, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, 4, 5, and this progresses all the way up through high school. And this is for anchor standard 1. Here you have for anchor standard 2, and we go all the way through. So again, this is a lot to print. So here's your creative process. Here's your presenting, because it's visual arts, responding, and connecting. But again, as you look at what you're doing, what you're writing, what you're proposing, what your grant application is, anything that you're doing, when you start to look to the language here, okay, I want to work with middle school students, you look at these bands. What are the middle school students expected to learn in my discipline, what I'm doing at this level? So when it becomes part of what you're including, now you have a full connection to those New York State standards.
What was the lowercase a at the end?
That's your performance indicator.
So what is that?
Is this here. This is your performance indicator. So that entire little narrative right here, this is your
So there's
performance.
an A, B there?
Yeah, most of them just have A's.
Oh, okay.
They really, I think music has a few that has B's, but really there's mostly A.
Typically A.
Yeah, that's it. So we have them for each. I'm just gonna click on them now. So for theater, the same thing. And again, you'll see those similarities. They color coded, they have the same, uppercase and lowercase letter, creating. And again, we will go through. Music has several different of these guides because there's general music, there's band, there's so many different types of music instruction that they have a few, I can't remember how many they have. So here's music general classroom, PK through 8, because music is very different. I mean, band and orchestra, it's not the same as general music or chorus. It's an entirely different type of instruction. Okay, so see, I knew I was going to mess myself up. Oh, there I am, up there. So back here, let's see if this works. All right, so now we have the National Core Art Standards, and the National Core Art Standards were created, and it was up to each state to develop their own standards. They could either adopt the National Core Art Standards, or they could adapt their own standards for their state. New York State chose to adapt this. There's a lot of similarities, but when they went into the grade band performance indicators, there were certain things, I don't remember exactly what they were, but there were certain indicators like students in second grade will be working on an iPad, or they would have digital cameras, and New York State said, we can't say something like this about our students. So they eliminated certain language and they just adapted it so it was more in alignment with where we expect our students to be, especially considering certain technologies that schools may or may not have. So let's see, I just want to make sure key features in New York standards include an option for teachers and other New York State to create a customized handbook. This is what I want to show you on here. Let me see if I could get to this. Because even though it's slightly different, they're very, very similar. And this is a great resource when I show you this handbook. So let's see if we can get there. Please. Ah, there we are. Okay. So, let's get my notes there. Here it is. So this would be the front page of the National Core Art Standards. And again, we're going to keep looking at these, creating, performing, responding, and connecting. And I think New York State have the same color coding too. So a lot of it is similar, but this is the feature that as a teaching artist, I think would be great for you to use. Okay, so you can view the anchor standards, standards at a glance, cornerstone assessment. So we could look at student artwork that pertains to this, but this is the part that I love. Customize your handbook. So I don't, somebody give me, what do we want to work with? Which discipline?
Let's go with visual.
I want to go with visual, sure. Do we want to do which process?
Degree.
Creating? We could even put all of them.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's do creating, responding, and connecting. What grade level are we working with?
Let's go 6 to 8.
Okay. And now, do we want to include the EUs and EQs? Sure. We want to include process components, and let's include resources. Now we go down here to this little arrow, customize your handbook. And now I have something right here that gives me all the language that I need for my program. What I also have is now, this is understanding and using those core standards. This is how it pertains to the visual arts, right? Right here, I could go into each process component. Look, right here for me, it's the standards. Magic, right? So apply those methods. Then I also included responding, again, connecting. Now for anyone, let's go back to our introduction. We also have inclusion guidelines. So if we're working with students with special needs, right here, we have inclusion guidelines that will help you, again, create or write about or apply for funding. And you have everything right here at your fingertips to use. And you'll it's a lot of reading, I get it, but it's there as a resource to help guide your programs and so that you can be aligning with the districts. Let's see. Oh no, I did the wrong one. Okay. So that also, Emily will put that, and Patty will put that up as a resource. So, but that's how I found it helpful when I was a classroom teacher and when I was teaching the art standards throughout the state to go and look at that. And when I was developing, whether it be rubrics for lesson plans or assessment guides, as this was being developed with New York State, this is what I found very helpful to gain an understanding of this. So, this is where I'm going to ask you we have handouts for you that you could use, or you could look at your own devices, or you could just look up here. I have that. This is not all visual arts, it's a mix of everything. So if we could just take a look and just give me an idea, Oksana, I know you do a lot of work in the classroom, so where you what you think, write down what you think your goal is and how it applies. I know that's very small up there. We could jump up and look if we wanted to. So if you could pair up with somebody or just do it on your own, look and see, where do you think a lesson that you have in your head, oops, wrong way, where you think that applies? Let's do a close read.
Okay, so.
Okay, my mouse is. Oh, see, I'm trying to get here, so I make sure I have everything. It's fine.
Yeah.
So we'll spend a few minutes doing this, maybe 10 minutes to find. We're like halfway through.
Yeah, 10 minutes, everybody. Pass out the map, okay?
What do you want us to do in 10 minutes?
So just take, if I could have everybody's attention for just 1 second. That's so hard. Apple, right? If everybody could just pair up, think about a lesson that you do or something that you do that you would love to do with students in the classroom. Take a look at if you're, we do have something for music and theater. So go in what your discipline is. I have visual arts up here because most of you have visual arts. Take a look. This is only for creating though. So see if you can write that code. Let's go back to the code for a second. I'd like you to have something that looks like this. Where would you stand? Would it be VA, CR, 1, 2, or 3? What enduring understanding are you addressing? So, okay.
So just as a precursor for the SCR application, everybody, we don't require you guys to create, connect, and respond. So we're going to need just like one standard or two, whatever your standards are. So we don't require everything.
Just as the it's the best.
And thank you for saying that. Because in some cases, our artists love to, the teaching artists love to say, I do it all.
Right.
And you might, but what's your strong? You know, if you are having students do like visual literacy and read a painting and write an essay about it or speak about it, most likely that's responding. It's really not creating. They might be creating something in their head.
So that's my question, because the program, the thing we're looking to do, it's multifaceted.
It can be. It can be.
It stretches over a long period of time that starts with looking at art, analyzing art, responding to the art, then creating the art, then presenting the art.
So we do cover them all.
So we do cover them all. So I'm just wondering, and that's kind of the motivation for being here. In writing the proposal, do we just write the whole process? Do we focus on, this is the I don't know that there's an overarching thing because it's this ongoing thing. Right. So I think that's where, the recovery multiple. So to me, that was the thing, the clarification I was looking for in terms of how to write.
So for this, for the creative learning in school only, for proposals, what's really important is that we are going to ask you what the learning centers are that you're connecting to your proposal. Okay, that might be 1, that might be 2, that might be 10. Whatever fits best. Having more does not necessarily guarantee you a grant. Okay, and having less doesn't. You have to have something. The second thing we'll be asking you, and I think Loretta's going to be touching on that as well, is SEL and culturally responsive statement framework. But it's very simple. We don't want you to get overwhelmed.
I do have
But what we are specifically looking for is just In terms of SEL, self-awareness, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. That's pretty much every art concept, right? Every art project. And the CRS framework, or DEI, depending on where you are, affirmation of like racial, linguistic, and cultural identities, elevating historically marginalized voices, and empowering students as agents of social change, prioritizing diversity, equity, and inclusion. All of these grants are primarily for community-based. So we want to see diversity, we want to see working with hopefully marginalized communities or students with challenges. So that's always a plus, right? Because that is what they're geared towards. So that's it. So that's for now. So that, and we do give you a program template which you can use as a lesson plan, which basically asks you to explain your project. What is your tangible outcome? There has to be a presentation of whatever you're doing, okay, so that the families can come see it, the public can come see it. And we're also going to provide you with exit cards for your own assessment and a teacher evaluation form, so that the classroom teacher can then evaluate it and we can see that and what they thought of the program, okay? So it has become a little more, those of you that have applied before, it's a little more detailed, but it's going to help you because you're going to learn all this stuff for those of you that aren't familiar with it, and you're going to be able to write some amazing proposals.
And that sort of comes down to just bridging that gap. And again, you said it, you're doing this. We know you're doing this. It's just a matter of knowing what's how nice it is putting the paper. So yeah, if we could just team up and, think of a lesson. And to give you an example, let's say, how would we write something like this? If we were going to generate and conceptualize artistic ideas of work, in your proposal, you could write something about, I am applying strategies to overcome creative blocks so that the students could use their creative and innovative thinking that are essential life skills. Right there, you've got, that's it. And it's right here. So it's all right there. Okay, right? Students, teachers, school leaders, district leaders, families and communities, higher education. So now I'm on the student page, right? As you can see on the left-hand side where it says students. This is how students can contribute to a welcoming and affirming environment through the culturally responsive and sustaining education. This will show what our students can do, build respect and mutual understanding across school community, including with teachers, administrators. As I scroll down, there's more students, and I will see the next section, maybe we'll have our teachers. What can our teachers do to get our students to these 4 principles of creating a welcoming and affirming environment? And this will give us our prompts for teachers. How does a teacher do this? Well, a teacher will maybe attend or volunteer at a community event when possible to develop relationships with families and community outside of the classroom setting. So then I think where most of you would fall in is possibly community and teachers, because you are teachers in your own right as well, teaching artists. You teach in your specific area. And we would scroll down, school leaders. I wish this was a little bit more user-friendly, but it's not. Communities and family and community members. This you may also get information from here. Where can I, as a community member, support the culturally responsive and sustaining education framework? So again, another good resource. Let's do that here. Here we are. Okay. Okay, our next one, and I'm not sure where my notes went. Okay, so my notes are missing, we'll just wing it. Is our civic readiness, college, career, and civic readiness. Again, when you're putting together your programs or implementing your programs, I'm sure a lot of it can connect what students can do outside of the school, in their professional lives, in their college lives, and in their civic lives. Many of our artists do programs that are social justice or community relations. This is, again, where your civics will be included. Get to, sorry. I think we're done with our web pages. Who's that? Okay. So, do you have any questions at all on the standards, any of the standards and how you might implement them into your program descriptions, whether it be for this current grant funding or other funding in the future, or programs that you wish to write, any community programs you want to do, anything within the schools. And then I'll go over BOCES Arts and Education, because that's what I do full time. And there are opportunities for teaching artists to be brought into the classroom through BOCES, and I'll get into that a little bit more, but I just want to see if you have any questions on the standards, or how you include the standards, or the resources that were provided to you today that you will get them. Actually, you don't have to search for them. We will get you those resources, so you can just click that link and know where to go. I'm always available to reach out to. I'll give you my contact information if you have any questions. Feel free to give a call or send an email, and I can either walk you through the state standards, or help you just think of something, how it connects if you want to use that resource. Do you have any questions?
Does everybody understand what the difference is between SEL and
CRS.
CRS? Does everybody understand the differences between those two? Do we need to go over that?
I can make some but I do not.
Okay, so the culturally responsive sustaining education framework includes social emotional learning as part of what is included in there, as well as other types. So we want our students to be, as I said, with those indicators. We want to welcome an affirming environment. We want to have our students all feel that they contribute to the global goodness of the world. So that's where those are. We want them to understand that there's other cultures, other peoples that we could learn from, and provide that support in a nutshell.
And for the grant, the prioritizing is diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's really the priority for the grant.
And I think it's helpful when you really take a look at any of these principles or standards, and rather than just putting numbers down, like rather than writing the code, embed it, include it in your narrative. Include that in your narrative. How does your program address diversity, equity, and inclusivity? How does your program connect with other cultural or historical aspects? So you can certainly put the code, you can put that, but when you put that in the narrative, and this again goes for this grant or anything else you're writing, even your own artist statements, it's helpful to write this kind of information in, because it's again, it's right here, it's all for you.
So I was just going to see if I'm understanding correctly. So if I'm doing, let's say for instance, I really like to use movies and different things with the children. We watched the movie Turning Red. We read the book Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, so we spoke about the Chinese culture. We made the comparison on the cultural aspects that were showcased in the film and in the book. And then there's also a book that's titled The Movie Within by Aida Salazar. Now she's Mexican American, but it kind of deals with a similar topic in there. And then as overall ending assignment, we will be doing a writing piece in which they will be incorporating aspects of their own culture with the theme presented on there is how your body changes and how we have to, learn to manage our emotions and things like that. So does that fit into that?
Yeah, all of this fits into a lot.
Well, that's generally speaking, that's connecting.
Yeah.
That's one of the standards in general.
It's connecting, it's responding, it is creating. I think connecting is your stronger point in that, but you are responding to other works, and they are creating from that as well. You're also doing, it's a welcoming and affirming environment. You are incorporating other cultures into that and learning about the cultures, so that's your cultural responsiveness. So and your diversity, equity, inclusivity is in there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're like working with, I'm gonna talk specifically about our grant, just because that's what we're here for. But, so what we're doing is, the description that you gave is basically what your project description would be. And then what Loretta was telling you about those standards, listing out that standard with the code, we're asking for that as well. So it kind of mirrors each other. The code is telling us what you wrote in the project description. And then what Patty was also mirroring with the frameworks, and what Loretta was saying, we're gonna ask for that as well. So this all fits into what we're looking for within the application, for sure.
Now, when you have a grant reader, especially for this project, and I will say personally, I've sat on this committee before, and when as an educator and as somebody that works with schools on a regular basis, when there was an applicant that connected to standards, that immediately elevated to me, this teaching artist really knew what was going into the classroom and was bringing their expertise in their discipline into the students through a standard and a common connection recognized by New York State Education Department. So me as a reader for the education portion of the grant, that just elevated anybody that did that, because it gave a deeper understanding to what was going on. And again, I know all of you as teaching artists, you do this. You do it. So to not have that one sentence or that one little bit that shows the reader that you understand how you're connecting your program to curriculum is just, it does a disservice to all of the great work that you do by not including that in there. So it just brings it up a little bit more.
You have to include it because it's required.
Okay, so then you.
But
But previously, it
The
wasn't
way you
required.
extend it, yes. the way you
Anytime,
connect it.
right, anytime I read, whether it was here or elsewhere, but here more specifically, when we got to that, you knew that that teaching artist knew what was going on in the classroom and how they could enrich those students' lives through what they were doing. Just
That's the
because of
point.
that, yeah.
And that's the point of this program. And
So now, what is BOCES Arts and Education? It's another opportunity for you to work in classrooms, work with students. Arts and Education at Eastern Suffolk BOCES, we offer programs that enrich students through things that they wouldn't necessarily get in the classroom through their regular instruction. So all of you as teaching artists would be invited to apply, and if some of you already are, I know that you are, in our catalog. The main reason, well, there are several reasons, but schools go through us. What happens is you can work as a teaching artist in school, and that's fine. The school pays, they write out the check. It's all well and good. But when the school goes through BOCES, what happens is now your program fee is eligible for state aid for the school. So then the school would get state aid about a year from now. So what going through Arts and Education does is it helps our districts to keep that funding alive for cultural arts programs. So our teaching artists provide those authentic learning experiences. We promote critical thinking, collaboration, community, and creativity. Our arts and ed programs connect with an art standard. Our exploratory enrichments connect with another standard, such as, let's say if we were doing mindfulness, meditation, yoga, science, math. If they're not taught from an art form, they would be exploratory enrichment. We usually do about 3,000 school performances a year. We have 67 districts through South Suffolk County that participate in arts and ed, and 29 participate in exploratory enrichment. So here's the benefits of using arts and ed and exploratory enrichment. Again, by contracting through BOCES, the school districts are then eligible to receive reimbursement from New York State aid for a portion based on their district's aid ratio. The difference between arts and ed and exploratory enrichment, as I said, one is strictly other curriculum. The arts and ed is somehow related to an art standard. We also have an evaluation system. So we keep a database of that, where when you go into a school, the teachers and the parents' organizations, whomever, administrators fill out an evaluation form. It's almost like a Yelp review for BOCES. So when, let's say, a PTA is looking for somebody to come in, and let's say they're looking, I'm only going to use Foley because he's right here and I know he's in our catalog. They're looking, well, I don't know him, how is he? Well, now they click on the evaluations and they see, oh, I don't know, 25 school districts on Long Island give him a 5-star rating. Well, guess what? I will probably use that in a decision. So how do you tie programs in to what teachers and schools are looking for? This is something also, I don't know, when developing programs, it doesn't necessarily mean for arts and ed, but every month, every week, we have some sort of theme or something, some sort of initiative where we're learning and highlighting, such as October, Hispanic Heritage is also National Bullying Prevention Month. It's also the month for Arts and Humanities. I would say most of you can tie some of your programs in here, and when our PTAs go and look for a program that addresses national bullying or bullying, guess what? If your program ties into that, it comes up in our search. And what we provide, if you think about anything inside of school or outside. So if students come on site to somewhere, they go to a museum, they go to a Broadway play, they go to a historical site, or if that person or persons come in, they do a play, or they do a different performance, that will run through Arts and Ed. I know here at the Huntington Arts Council, they have a Journeys program that goes into schools, but they also have exhibits that students participate in. So those are the type of things that would be in our Arts and Ed catalog, and I believe they're in there, right, Sue? And I think we're adding more, right?
Yes.
Okay. So programs that address character education, okay, and here we go, ta-da, did you know you were part of our ongoing presentation? You are. So, visual arts, exploratory enrichment, such as like Brookhaven Land, that would be exploratory enrichment. We have authors, whether they're teaching students how to develop a story or whether they're teaching the illustrative process. We have authors that do that. Other ways to use arts and ed and exploratory enrichment? Well, we have costume design, which we just have a new costume designer, we could always use another, set design, pole guard, sound and lighting, choreographer, district memberships, professional development in the arts too. If you're teaching through the arts, you're not limited to working with students. You can teach programs that work with teachers. Cultural partners, we have our arts councils, Broadway theaters, performing arts centers, museums, farms, health and wellness, motivational speakers. We also do, one thing I always found, arts is social practice, raising awareness for a cause, sorry about that. Our honor societies, they're always looking for ways to give back to the community, collaborative events, anything that contributes to a school environment, such as murals. I love to use this example because you can see the umbrellas in the background. My students, we worked on what was called the Umbrella Project, and I actually brought my students to a Saturday program at the Queens Museum of Art. And at the Queens Museum of Art, they did this art access program where they were working with families affected by autism. And my students got to sit with the children and get to really learn about them and talk to their parents and understand the personalities and create art together. And then we went back to our classrooms and they created umbrellas based on the student's personality. So if you see that one in the front, that was a student of mine, and the child that she was really working with loved the subway. That was his thing. They live in Flushing, right? So it was the number 7 train, and he was obsessed with the color purple and the number 7 and the train. So she created that umbrella. You can see the subway with the number 7. As almost like a portrait of him. So we brought the umbrellas back for an exhibit. They exhibited it in the Queens Museum, and they would donate it to Art Access so they could use it as an auction to raise money to keep their program going. It was a grand idea, but every student knew which umbrella represented them, so ultimately the parents ended up buying the umbrellas. But, it did help the cause. So those kind of things, students love to work on those projects, the teachers love to do it. They don't always have the opportunity or that external resource. Right here in this room, all of you are that external resource because you're outside in, I don't want to say the real world, but you are. You are outside of that K-12 classroom where our teachers are siloed in, so they love to have that external experience and have those connections with places like the Huntington Arts Council because they don't necessarily have that connection on their own. So when they have a teaching artist that brings that world to them, it just opens their doors a little bit. We do have an advisory board so that we can meet with regularly with people that let us know what's going on in the community, what's going on in the world of teaching, what's going on through the administrative world. This is how you can always reach me. This is, well, definitely reach me here or my other email address, but this is probably the best way. And Emily, you can put that on as a resource if you have any questions. For us, with writing your programs, I would go over this a little bit more with you. If you were interested, I'm not going to do that now, but again, we do have where you check off, how does your program pertain to the art standards? What culturally responsive and sustaining education are you addressing, and what curriculum connection you're addressing, what arts connection, if there is one that you're addressing. So what are schools looking for? Again, they're looking for social emotional learning, DEI. So we have that here as well. That's very big right now that they're looking for. They're also looking for STEAM programs, science, technology, engineering, art, math, STEAM, makerspace, drug awareness and prevention, motivational, inspirational, authors and literacy, science, math, interdisciplinary connections, our professional development for teachers, mindfulness, yoga, meditation, especially after the past 2 years, it's been rough on them, social emotional workshops, nonviolent communication. Other opportunities we do a conference for kids, we send out monthly newsletter, we do spotlights on the arts, we also get our teaching artists involved. I always send things out. When you're looking for teaching artists, I'll blast it out to everybody to give opportunities, whether it's grants or whether it's opportunities to engage in the community. So here's samples of some of our publications. We have a conference for kids. Obviously during COVID we could not do it, but we switched to a virtual program. And we offered, now we did 2 years in a row, the virtual program, about 2,400 students attended. And what I can say about this program is we are reaching schools now that couldn't necessarily afford to take the bus out to Riverhead, Suffolk Community College campus, and they love it. We have high class, really high profile performers. We had the Brookhaven Lab gave a presentation. This guy on the right here, Brent Daniels, he's like a sound engineer director for major motion pictures. I mean, like Terminator, Black Widow, and he does the sound for them. He gave the students a presentation. The person below him, John Collins, was up until about a month ago the Guinness Book of World Record holder for paper airplanes. Mm-hmm. So he teaches physics, aerodynamics through making paper airplanes. The students were in their classroom when he did that. But he comes and presents. So it gave a lot of our students opportunities to engage with people in virtual format. We're hoping to do one on campus again this year.
What grade is that?
That's 4th and 5th grades. So if you have programs that address that, we may ask you to do that. We do other collaborative events. We work with the Patrick Arts Council. We just started a peace program that's Partners in Education, Arts, and Community Empowerment. It's a $1.8 million grant that was awarded through the U.S. Department of Education, where we invite teaching artists and educators to work together to come up with collaborative programs that can be used in their classroom. So right now we have the teaching artists, which are a few in here, selected for this year, but we would invite anyone to apply for next year. Those applications will be going out in January. And the Long Island Media Arts Show, that's another collaboration. We're going to work with teaching artists on that, but it's in here. Portfolio project, student scholarships and awards. This is an example of one of our community type of projects where our performers and presenters come and engage with the community for a day. It's basically, instead of having to pay as an individual to get one of those sections that you have in these community events, they donate it to us and we invite our presenters to come, so you have the chance to engage. Another resource that I love to give our teaching artists is the International Teaching Artists Collaborative. Again, that link will be shared. It's a great resource for teaching artists to use. And we could share, or we could just ask questions. A program that addresses any of the topics discussed, because the last time we did that was just the art standards. Now, do your programs address anything else, which I'm sure that they do?
so we could share, we could
I
ask
just wanted to ask
questions.
quickly,
Sure.
I want to pass along the STEAM conference to my elementary school teacher. How does she find info? Is it on the?
She could write to us here at artsanded@eastcoast.org.
So
and
could
say-
she use Arts and money probably
Yeah.
to attend that?
Yep.
Okay.
So she could write, and somebody in the office will get back to her and let her know what she has to do to sign students up. And as I said, February is going to be virtual, but we're hoping to do an on-site one in maybe June, but that's still in the works because we still have to work on restrictions and logistics and getting permissions to hold it at different
Do you
places.
typically do them twice a year? Or?
No, we normally do them once a year at the Riverhead campus of Suffolk Community College, but COVID shut us down for that. Obviously, we couldn't do anything in May of 2020, so we did it virtually in June of 2021, or May or June of 2021. And the students and teachers loved it. But at that point in the year, it was the end of the year, everyone was tired of looking at screens, they wanted to be outside. So we moved it to February of 2022, right before February break, and they loved it because it's a lull in learning at that point, so the kids were excited. So ideally, I would like to have it in February virtually and then have another one in June on site. That's what we're hoping for.
On this program, you can walk that, I saw something about so peace program.
Yeah, we'll send another notice to everybody probably in January to apply for the 23-24 school year. Wow, that's, so we'll send that out again. But yeah, feel free to apply for that, and that's an ongoing collaboration. So do we have any questions or any sharing? Wow, I went much faster than I thought. Whoa, okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
On the BOCES, when I post my classes, do I have to write all this?
No, but it helps. That's what I'm saying, it always helps, no matter what you do.
I just realized that.
If you're writing anything that has to do with education, it helps. So when an art teacher goes and looks at your program, for example, and they see, okay, that looks nice, but once they see it connects to those standards, now not only does it help them because they connected to a standard, but it also helps them maybe get funding, because now they're going to their administrator, look, this project, this residency will connect to these standards. It'll also bring our students into maybe Art Honor Society, whatever it may be. It just helps the teacher be able to present it, again, in their own language, because now you're talking education terms.
And then I should do abbreviation.
Yeah, you could just do an abbreviation, that's fine. Or you could even write addresses, but for the purposes of BOCES, yeah, you could do an abbreviation, you could actually put the coding. I'm not sure, Emily, what do you want on your application? Do you want the actual coding?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what we need for our actual application is the brief program description, and then we're gonna ask for the code as well. So we ask for both, so it's gonna mirror each other. So either you write your program description out, and then you figure out what your code is, or you do the opposite. And if you need more help with that.
And I'm always available.
When we do the creative learning seminars that are mandatory for anyone that is proposing, that is thinking of doing a grant proposal, we'll go more into detail about the application and everything that's required.
When are those?
So they open up on October 17th, and then the seminars meeting. So the seminars start on September 13th, and each seminar is based on a specific grant category. So the first one is going to be creative communities, but
If you go to the website,
we'll have everything listed.
everything else.
Yeah.
So if you were, for instance, more applicable, I guess, to create community, that's the school-based one that we're kind of talking about?
So the creative learning one is the school-based one we're talking about. Yeah. So we have an in-school program and then an after-school program, and we can help you decipher what is the best category in future projects.
And then which meetings
Exactly.
correlate.
And you can come to more than one.
Absolutely, you can come to as many as you want. Yeah.
Okay.
If I'm gonna be away from the community, how I can.
So,
Me too.
Well, that's the one I wanna apply for.
okay, so we have multiple sessions for creative communities. 3 of the days are gonna be for creative communities.
The most important thing is to go to the website. Go to the website. Programs, click on it, Long Island Grants for the Arts, drop down menu, everything is there. You do not have to remember anything. Because I will be following up with you via email after today, and we would love to schedule time to talk with you, Emily and myself, or together. We love doing Google Meets. So, we can schedule the time to speak with you specifically so that you can learn more about it, and then as we said, when you come to the seminar, it'll be a more in-depth, specifically about the grant application.
With the after-school one, is there criteria that it has to be like on that school's grounds? Could it be in conjunction with
So,
another organization?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because
Yeah.
creative learning in school is very different from creative learning after school. So the in-school sessions obviously have to be within the school itself. You have to touch on the standards. You have the program template that we were talking about. When it comes to after school, you don't need to touch on the standards because it's not during the school day. And it can be with any nonprofit organization. It could be with the PTA. It could be with whomever, a library, whomever you'd like. So there's significant differences between the two applications. Questions? No? Don't be afraid to ask.
Any questions? Good question.
Yeah, right, so I'll ask my question.
Sure,
That's-
absolutely.
I'm a teacher, I'm teaching ours, I've actually, Oksana's come and done a program by me, she was wonderful. Part of what me and a colleague are looking to do is we run an after-school National Art Honor Society that's started this collaborative arts program, together with Hackshire, well, lots of show, now it's growing, we have like 10 schools, and we're trying to get more schools in North brainstorming. So, the motivation for coming is to see if it's applicable. So if that after school, the creative learning after school is what it would be called, if that's something we can apply for to continue to build this program. So, and I mean, I'm not sure exactly this is the program. That's why I was saying, oh, when you talk about the standards, there's a lot of different things. We're touching upon because it's not a one-day event per se. Is part of the application, a justification of funds. I know we're going to use the funds to per se do this thing, or buy this product, or engage these students, or, right, like specifically
So
purpose.
pretty much what we're looking for is almost like an end game. What is your final project going to be? And these funds are going to help you get to that end project. If that makes sense. So, like, we worked on hiring a teacher and paying that teacher with these funds. And then the teacher kind of takes the reins with you and you guys create the program together for the students.
So it's a collaborative of multiple teachers.
It absolutely can.
You sort of are the coordinators of
Facilitators
this.
of that.
Facilitators of this program.
Right, but again, as the facilitator of the program, as the administrator of the grant, you can also put it in the budget to pay yourself as administrator. These are all the things that we'll go over.
This is what
And
exactly.
expanding it. For instance, I was trying to think of, okay, well, there's the SEL, diversity. Part of this collaborative program, we invite other honor societies from across the island, and hopefully branch out nationally at some point. We're kind of trying to think of how. So, for instance, some of the fun, there's a small participation fee, and for some of the schools, they balk at that at first. And it's really to just buy the supplies that we haven't done our grants up to this point.
Yeah.
So I wonder if, let's say there's an underprivileged school that has this after-school program that can't afford the participation fee, who wants to participate, and we could expand in that way. Where, does that make sense? Does that sound like an application of the funds, or is it more so to grow the program? Like we need to have this display, it costs X number of dollars, and we need to grow it in this way in order to do this.
The grant is event specific.
Event specific.
So it is for the specific program that you're talking about that you want to fund. It is not for ongoing or sustaining
And
funds.
sustaining it.
It's
So
not
we
sustaining.
have these custom-made display cubes that we create every year. That we need to, every year, if there's X number of schools participating, we need to purchase X number of things. or we want to make a digital version of this so that we can invite other people to do this and want to grow this program. So is that applicable, not applicable?
It is not really applicable, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. It is not really applicable because you can't buy any, like, okay, so it can't just be for this end of year thing that you're doing. It has to
We
be,
can't fund this exhibit and these materials for this exhibit.
no, it has to be created.
art.
So,
Well, the art is created.
no, I know that, but I'm saying like, it would have to be like, you would have to fund the entire thing, like, you would say, but it's only $5,000. So you obviously have to get funding somewhere else, because I'm sure the program is for like $5,000. But you might be able to say, if they said that they're getting funding elsewhere to actually pay the artists and the supplies and all that stuff, right? And then they want to use the SCR grant to pay for the exhibit of the art. Does that work? Or is it just,
So
that's the public component?
Right, so we pay for the public space, the rental fee of the
Rental fee.
actual space.
So, it depends. For instance, if you use the museum, if we come in and they do a tour, like we do, a guided tour, and they have, museum educators, there'd be a fee for that, and then there would be, trying to transport all these kids there, and then there's the idea of buying supplies for the kids to make art to withstand, right? So then we have to buy materials for the students to create
That's a
original
fun
art.
right there.
And then we need a place for, then we buy these things to put the art on in order to display it publicly and then help people.
Yeah, so the fee, no, there's a lot of,
There's so many
in
different
what that is.
factions, so I'm like not sure if it applies or doesn't
So
apply.
there are specific things within your entire program that this grant can pay for. So i.e. the supplies for the students to create their little project.
Because at this point, obviously, we're the teachers are just giving their
Oh,
time
yeah,
to oversee this,
Mhm.
not paid, but
But
just
this
as a
is-
byproduct of this
For
event.
these grants, we want to see you pay artists.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
for instance-
that's another criteria.
Yeah.
You need to pay artists, because you don't want artists
Yeah.
working for free.
Yeah, this is
So-
great. I mean, I'd love to get paid.
Right.
Absolutely. I'd love to get paid for it. Because it's a lot of coordination and.
That's like one of our top
So,
line priorities,
yeah.
paying our artists, because I mean, as you all know,
Right.
the arts is a hard field to be in. So why not, if you can pay yourself with these funds, why not? And that's
That's what
what
I'm trying to see, what is
Some
the
hours.
application in terms of this multi-fund, where can it be?
Yeah. So why don't you reach out to Patty, or why don't we set up a meeting? And
Yeah,
we can
maybe
discuss
she
the
and I-
ins and outs of what your program is.
Because we're happy to sit and write it, but then, like I said, if it's not applicable, then, certainly we don't want to take it away from someone that it's more applicable to.
Sure, no, let's, we
Yeah.
can set up a meeting and we'll figure out like, what little parts can be funded, because it sounds like certain things can be fundable in what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So why don't we set up? a
Yeah.
meeting?
That'd be great.
And if you want
That's
to,
the-
what I would also say is if you're not signed up for this Friday's meeting, I would say sign, it's a budgeting, so it's our new, it's,
I'm not signed up, maybe I'll make her go to that, since I think this. I really might go to the school, so I can get around it. She might be-
I'll be able to one on Friday.
I'll actually talk more specifically
Yeah, so-
about the.
I'm gonna bring up our actual budget worksheet that you guys will be using for the grant itself. What's fundable, what's not fundable, how to use the budget worksheet, any sort of things, how you can get extra funds, that sort of thing. So I suggest someone comes from the organization, on Friday for sure.
Sounds great. And is that the same sort of online, sign up?
Yeah, absolutely, and then Patty does one on the following Wednesday for community outreach. So a lot of what we're also trying to do,
Communities, yeah.
I would say.
So I would say sign up for that Friday one today, because
Yeah.
you're almost at max.
I'll sign her up.
And then it's going to cut you off, secondly.
You're almost back now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I crossed her off, I'll just put her on that.
Yep, perfect, so yeah, I would definitely say have someone for sure.
Well, there's three of us that try to coordinate that, like, museums. That's great, that sounds exciting. That's what we're looking for opportunities.
These are being recorded as we speak.
They are doing well.
So, but they will be on the website, but it's not, against the one.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course. Does anybody else have any questions they want to go over? Yeah.
For the in-school or after-school, either one,
Yeah.
the program goes from January to December.
Yeah.
So if you're targeting to a certain grade, in January is the spring semester, and then they say you want to go with the advanced,
Mhm.
they graduate and they're gone. When it comes to September, how does that work? How do you?
Yeah, so that's the problem with these state funds, right, is they want it in the calendar year.
Right.
So a lot of what's gonna happen come January is you're gonna wanna, that's like our planning process for you as the teaching artist to work with your teachers. I know it's a weird time frame, but that's kind of the idea, is you plan in the beginning of the year, execute it in more in the middle of the year, and unfortunately, that's just
Okay.
comes.
Well, that doesn't work if you're just targeting to a sixth grade level,
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, and they're gone, and then in September.
So,
you've got
I mean,
new
your program does not have to last all year. So that's just the general time frame I want you to work in. So your program can start January, end in April, kind of deal. Because-
Okay.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be all year. So we're just looking for you guys to have an end goal, an end project at some point in the 2023 calendar year.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, great.
Does that make a little bit more sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Questions? And you're always welcome to set up a meeting with Patty or myself or both of us to kind of go over your own proposals. And that way we can kind of tailor it to help you guys understand what you really need to do for this actual project. If creative learning is actually the program you need to be applying for, because there are 2 other applications that are available to you guys. So it's creative communities, creative learning, and creative individuals. So we can help you figure out where you best fit. Absolutely.
Good luck with all your applications and programs.
Do you have your contact info?
Yes.